Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. I was looking through my inbox, and I came across this really interesting collection of articles from Python TK,
Oh, yeah.
which I believe translates to Python Trends Weekly.
That's right. Yeah, Python Trends Weekly.
So it seems like someone out there wants us to get a better feel for what's happening in the Python world from like
Yeah.
December 2023 to April 2024.
Yeah, and I mean, looking through these articles, it looks like a pretty diverse set. We got some technical deep dives.
Yeah.
We've got news about the Python language itself, and even some like philosophical discussions about, the nature of coding itself.
Yeah, you know what I really like is like how they seem to blend these really well.
Yeah.
Like you've got these in-depth technical pieces right alongside like these news updates and then like even reflections on like the broader coding world.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix.
Yeah, it is.
And that's kind of what I think makes this publication so valuable.
Yeah.
It really feels like it captures the pulse of the community, not just the technical aspects. Right.
But, gives you a feel for what's happening in the Python world, both in terms of the code and like the people who are writing it.
Absolutely. And actually, speaking of the people writing the code, there's one of the articles that I saw. It kind of gives us a look behind the scenes at this publication's creation process.
Yeah.
And even like the challenges they've faced.
Oh, are you talking about
Oh.
Tutupimu? So that would translate to between open source and family. He chose family.
Yeah. And it seems like kind of a poignant reflection on, how do you balance your personal life
Right.
with contributing to open source.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was he talking about in the article?
Yeah. So he was talking about having to step back from maintaining several different Python projects, including things like PyOxidizer and Python build standalone.
Wow, those are pretty big.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, the demands of family life just kind of evolving.
And, sometimes your priorities have to shift. And I mean, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just amazing how like life events can just like reshape our perspectives, even when it comes to something that we're passionate about.
Yeah.
But even though he's stepping back from, active development, it sounds like his contributions to the Python community have been pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really cool is that he's not just like abandoning his projects.
Right.
He's actually actively looking for new maintainers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, to make sure that, his work can continue to thrive and, benefit other people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a testament to his commitment to open source
Yeah.
and, the spirit of collaboration. I mean, it's really inspiring to see that level of dedication to these projects.
Yeah, definitely.
So did he give any background about himself? Like what led him to create this publication in the first place?
He did. Yeah, he talked a little bit about his early days, as a Python developer, his journey into open source, and basically, this desire to share his passion for Python with, a wider audience.
Right.
And he felt like, this weekly publication was like the perfect way to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like he really put his heart and soul into this project.
Yeah, he really did. And it's really evident that, this is more than just a publication for him. It's really like a reflection of his love for Python and, fostering a vibrant and supportive community around it.
And I think it's really cool, like this sense of community.
Yeah.
And it feels like, Python Melee is like this valuable resource, not just for like keeping up with technical stuff,
Yeah.
but also getting a deeper understanding of like the people and the culture of, this world.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes it so engaging and informative.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, before we like jump into some of the specific trends that they're highlighting, one thing that immediately jumps out to me is how much they talk about these AI-powered development tools.
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge trend.
Like it feels like we're seeing this huge shift in how software is made.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're talking about things like Microsoft's AutoDev framework. And then there's these open source projects like OpenDevin and Cebu eAgent. Like, they're really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, it's almost like having an AI pair programmer like right there with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So like what exactly can these tools do?
Well, I mean, they can do a lot of things from like generating code,
Right.
from natural language descriptions to writing unit tests, even identifying and fixing bugs, and they can even like interact with Git.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a game changer, I think.
Yeah, I think it could be, and it's interesting to think about, how this will shape, the future of programming.
Right, like are they going to replace us or are they just going to, make us better?
Right. Are we going to be out of a job or,
Right.
the list just, make us even better?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Python AI actually tackles that question head on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's an article called Hugh Ogusa. So that translates to like learning to code with and without AI.
Oh, wow.
And it really addresses this impact, on both novice and experienced programmers.
So what did they think about it?
Well, it's interesting. They kind of explore both, the benefits and the drawbacks of relying on AI for coding.
Right.
And they also emphasize that it's still super important to understand like the fundamental principles of programming, even if you're using these tools.
Right.
So it's not about just letting the AI do all the work.
Right.
It's about using it strategically and ethically while you're developing like a solid foundation.
Right. So finding that balance
Exactly.
of, understanding what's going on, but also like using the tools when they're available.
Yeah. And I think this highlights a bigger theme,
Yeah.
that's kind of present throughout a lot of these issues. And that's just, the need to adapt and learn
Right.
in the world of software development because it's always changing.
Right. It's constantly evolving. And it seems like Python Kark is a good resource for, staying on top of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And speaking of, adapting and evolving,
Yeah.
there's another article that I thought was interesting
Yeah.
that kind of talks about this unconventional approach to development.
Oh, okay.
It's called Python Houché.
Okay, so why is our company still developing projects with Python?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, what were they doing?
So they were talking about this smaller company that's sticking with like older versions of Python,
Okay.
like Python 2.7 and Django 1.8.
Wow, that's pretty outdated.
Yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah.
But the author makes this really interesting argument
Okay.
for, their specific needs.
Right.
They're arguing that these older versions are stable,
Okay.
reliable,
Yeah.
and actually perfectly capable of handling their work.
And what kind of work were they doing?
So get this, they're actually processing millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars on Python 2.7.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it really challenges this notion that you need the
Yeah.
latest and greatest
The newest, shiniest thing,
to be successful.
right? Sometimes you just need the tool that works
Yeah,
and that meets your needs.
and that,
Right.
really well.
Exactly.
And I think that's cool. It's like not just blindly chasing trends.
Right.
It's about making informed decisions that align with your goals.
For sure.
Yeah, and it seems like that philosophy of practicality, it seems like it's reflected in a lot of these articles.
Yeah.
Like you see them talking about different web frameworks,
Yeah.
the trade-offs of different packaging approaches,
Mm-hmm.
like all this really interesting stuff.
So it sounds like they're really promoting, this culture of like exploring and making informed choices,
Absolutely.
which is so important in software.
Yes, especially when things are changing so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Python and Jack is doing a really good job of that.
For sure.
Um, Now, I did notice that there are a few articles
Okay.
that like really dive deep into like the Python language itself.
Okay, so they're going like under the hood.
Yeah, like under the hood.
Okay.
Like for example, there's this one called C Python.
But Python,
Check it out.
Python check 40.
Okay, hold on. So that's C Python source code analysis. Why are the results of multiplying Python lists so strange?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So they're going like really deep into like the core of Python.
Yeah, they're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Like
Yeah.
how something that seems so simple on the surface
Right.
can actually be like super complex,
Yeah, for sure.
like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's super valuable for developers.
Who want to really understand how Python works, like deep down.
Yeah, and there are other articles too,
Yeah.
that kind of go into this, behind the scenes look at the language. So,
Yeah.
There are articles about like, the implementation of the new JIT compiler in Python 3.13.
Right.
How Celery, the task queue works internally,
Right?
and even like a step-by-step guide on how to build like a really simple PostgreSQL server using Python.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's really cool. They cover like a wide range of topics
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this publication.
Yeah. I'm really struck by how active and like innovative the Python community is.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just constant, new tools and libraries.
Yeah, new projects.
Yeah, it's not just limited to like Silicon Valley.
Right, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's a global thing.
It's global.
And I think Python does a good job of capturing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Featuring articles and projects from all over the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just, it's more than just a programming language.
Right.
It's a community.
It's a community of people who are passionate about it.
Yeah, and who are using it to build really cool things.
Exactly.
So I think just going through these articles has really given me a much deeper appreciation for
Yeah.
like how dynamic Python is.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah, and I think Python is doing a great job of, kind of showing us that.
For sure.
So I think we've learned a lot about, the state of Python just by like looking through these articles.
We have, but we're not done yet.
Oh, we're not done yet.
We still have some more stuff to cover.
Oh, really? Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk about some more of this really interesting stuff.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the things that I thought was really interesting was an article about running like these large language models or LLMs
Right.
on Android phones.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Like AI is becoming so accessible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is pretty amazing.
You're talking about Huhi 8 Gen 3 AI in C3.
Oh, right. That's the one. Yeah.
It's mind-blowing that like something that used to require these powerful servers,
Right.
you can now run on something that's in your pocket.
Yeah. And it's not just like English language models either.
Oh, really?
They were talking about Chinese language models.
Wow.
Even multimodal models, that can process like text and images.
It's pretty amazing how fast this field is advancing.
It is. And, it seems like Python is right there at the center of it all.
Yeah, with all of its libraries.
Exactly. Python's just so versatile, and there are so many libraries that are focused on AI.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit.
It really is.
And it just makes me think about, what's coming next.
Right. What kind of apps are we going to be seeing?
Yeah, like imagine an AI assistant that can understand what you're saying,
Right.
but also what you're looking at.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, that would change a lot.
Yeah.
And, speaking of AI, this accessibility isn't just limited to phones.
Right.
There were a couple of articles about, using Python to build things with the Raspberry Pi.
Oh, yeah, the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, that tiny little computer
Yeah.
that everybody loves to use for their projects.
It's so versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do so much with it.
Yeah, I saw the one about building a temperature monitor.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool one.
It seems like a great project, if you're just kind of getting started.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you want to learn about integrating hardware and software.
Exactly.
So that one was called plus Python plus Influx eJON.
Yeah. Okay.
So it basically walks you through the process of setting up a temperature sensor,
Right.
collecting the data with Python,
Yeah.
and then even visualizing it with this tool called InfluxDB.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is. It's really neat.
Yeah, and it's not that complicated.
Right. Like it seems pretty approachable.
Yeah, definitely someone with just like basic Python knowledge could probably do it.
Yeah. I like that, it encourages that kind of learning by doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which I think Python Uni does a good job of.
Yeah, I agree.
I also saw one that kind of combined Python and astronomy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which I thought was really interesting.
What was that one?
It was Python Joe. Okay. So how to use Python to predict the time and trajectory of a solar eclipse.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So this was inspired by, that solar eclipse that happened on April 8th, 2024.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the author basically figured out how to predict eclipses using Python.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
Like I wouldn't know where to even start.
Yeah.
Did it actually work?
Yeah, it did.
Really?
The article explains how to, calculate the timing and path of a solar eclipse
Wow.
using Python libraries, and they even include a visualization of the eclipse's trajectory.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is.
It's a great example of how Python can be used to understand,
Yeah.
complicated scientific concepts in a
Right.
really engaging way.
Right. And it just shows how versatile Python is.
Right. It's not just for building websites or,
And addressing data.
yeah, analyzing data. You can do scientific research.
Predict eclipses.
You can predict eclipses.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think Python does a really good job of showcasing that,
Yeah, showing all the different things you can do with Python.
Right. Constantly exposing you to new ideas and applications.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I appreciate about these articles
Yeah.
is that they're really approachable.
Yeah.
Like even when they're talking about something really complicated, it doesn't feel intimidating.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that makes this publication so great.
Yeah.
It balances like the technical stuff
Right?
with accessibility.
Yes, it's a good balance.
It is.
So I think it's a really valuable resource for anyone,
Yeah, no matter your skill level,
Yeah,
you can get something out of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, Another trend that I noticed
Okay.
is this increasing use of Rust.
Oh, yeah, Rust.
Yeah, for building Python tools.
It's becoming more and more popular.
It seems like it's kind of replacing that traditional reliance on C
Yeah.
for like performance critical components.
Yeah. Well, Rust offers, the safety and speed
Yeah,
that C doesn't always have.
right. It's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And it's designed to prevent like these memory errors,
Right.
which are a huge source of bugs,
No,
you know.
right. Those are the worst.
Yeah, and it still delivers, really great
But
performance.
it's not just about speed. It's about like reliability,
Right.
security.
Yeah, and I mean it's not just like the big companies that are using it either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was that story about the small company that
Yeah.
was using Python 2.7 and Django 1.8.
Yeah, with millions of dollars.
Yeah, millions of dollars. Like, you don't always need the newest thing to be successful. Sometimes you just need what works.
Yeah.
What's
Reliable.
what's reliable, what's stable.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit old.
Yeah, it's not about being trendy. It's about
Right.
getting the job done.
Exactly.
And I think, that's a theme
Yeah.
throughout these articles.
Like being thoughtful.
Yeah, being thoughtful about your choices
Yeah.
and understanding the trade-offs.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also a lot of talk about Python 3.13
Oh, yeah, the new version.
and specifically, the introduction of the JIT compiler.
Oh, yeah, the GIT compiler. That's a big deal.
Yeah, those articles, Python 3.13 JIT and Python 3.13 and Python 3.13 JIT EEK and Python 3.13 EEK, they all kind of could go into that.
Yeah, and what's a GIT compiler?
So a GIT compiler, basically it tries to speed up your Python code by compiling parts of it like on the fly
Yeah.
while it's running.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty big development. But they were also saying that, the performance improvements aren't always huge.
Right, it's not a magic bullet.
Yeah, and there's still some work to be done.
Yeah, it's still early days,
Yeah,
but it's exciting.
yeah, it's definitely something to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Also for people who use NumPy,
Yeah.
there's a big change coming with NumPy too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. NumPy to Shirao. NumPy.
Yeah, so there are some backward incompatible changes.
Oh, that's no fun.
So, if you use NumPy,
Right.
be prepared to update your code.
Make sure it works with the new version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's important.
And of course, we can't talk about Python without talking about web development.
Yeah, that's like Python's bread and butter.
Right. And there's always this discussion about, which web framework is the best.
It's the age-old question.
Right. And it seems like the battle between Flask and FastAPI is heating up.
It's a hot debate.
Yeah. I saw this article that was like, Flask, FastAPI, imbi.
Wow. So that means Flask is dead, FastAPI is the future.
That's a pretty bold statement.
That is pretty bold. But then I saw another article
Okay.
that was like, Django, FastAPI.
Tempers off the J.
So that's like 10 reasons why I stick with Django instead of FastAPI.
Yeah. So it seems like there's no clear winner.
Right, it depends on what you need.
Like, every framework has its pros and cons.
Exactly, and the best choice,
Depends on the project.
depends on the project.
And the developer.
Yeah, your own personal preferences.
Yeah. And, FastAPI has gotten really popular, especially for building APIs. But Django,
Yeah, Django's not going anywhere.
it's still really solid.
It's super powerful.
Yeah. And there's also this article,
Yeah.
Django 8 ASGI, that kind of goes into ASGI servers and how they're used with Django.
Right, ASGI,
Yeah.
Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface.
That's a mouthful.
It is,
Hmm.
yeah, and basically it's a newer way to build asynchronous web servers in Python.
Okay.
Django traditionally has used this other thing called WSGI.
But with ASGI, Django apps can actually take advantage of the benefits of asynchronous programming.
So it's a good reminder that, even though we have these frameworks,
Yeah.
there's still all this stuff happening.
All this development happening underneath.
Yeah, like behind the scenes that we don't even see.
Yeah, and it's constantly evolving.
And it's cool that Python Ike is, keeping us up to date on that.
Yeah, for sure. They do a good job of covering that stuff.
Yeah, I have to say, going through these articles has given me, a much deeper appreciation for just, the Python world.
Yeah, me too. It's really cool to see all the different things that are happening
Yeah.
and all the innovation and collaboration.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
It is. One thing that caught my eye was how many of these articles highlight projects that go beyond the typical software development stuff.
Oh, really? Like what?
Like using Python to create music.
Oh, yeah, like that Python AI article.
Yeah. Making game music with Python and AI.
What was that about?
So the author was talking about how to use Python libraries to generate original music tracks specifically for video games.
Oh, wow.
And they even explore how AI can be used to like create dynamic soundtracks
Oh, wow.
that adapt to the gameplay.
So the music changes like as you're playing.
Exactly. Yeah. Pretty cool, right?
That's really neat, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing that you can create like entire soundtracks using Python.
It is. It really shows you how flexible Python is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And just like the creativity of the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was another one that caught my eye, too.
Yeah.
It was Python FIMA.
Oh, yeah. Can Python even be used to control lights?
Yeah, that one.
Sounds a little too simple, right?
Yeah, no.
But that's kind of the cool thing about Python.
Right.
You can use it for like these really complex tasks, but also for like surprisingly straightforward things.
So can you really just like write some Python code and make your lights turn on and off?
That's basically what the article is about.
Oh, wow.
It goes into using Python to interact with like smart home devices,
Yeah.
specifically smart lights. And the author kind of walks you through the process of setting up a system where you can, control your lights with Python.
That's pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, it seems like a fun project.
Yeah, it does.
And it really highlights, this growing intersection of Python with the Internet of Things.
Right.
All these devices becoming connected.
Yeah, the IoT.
Yeah, exactly. And Python's ability to like talk to hardware and networks, it makes it like a really powerful tool for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So, building smart home systems, controlling robots, all sorts of cool things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, exploring Python R has been really eye-opening.
It has been, yeah.
I feel like we've gotten a really good sense of, what's happening in the Python world.
Yeah, definitely.
And, what I really appreciate is that balance they have between, technical stuff and personal reflections
Absolutely.
and practical applications.
Yeah, it's not just about the code.
Right? It's about the people.
Yeah, it's about the people who are writing it.
The challenges they face.
Yeah, the choices they're making.
And how they're using Python to solve problems.
Exactly.
And build cool things.
And that's what makes it so engaging.
Absolutely. So if you're out there and you're looking for, a way to stay up to date on what's happening in Python,
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out Python Yin.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if you don't read Chinese,
Yeah.
you could still get a lot out of it.
The code examples, the project links, a lot of the titles, you can kind of figure out what's going on.
Exactly. And there's always Google Translate if you need it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a really valuable resource, I think, for anyone who wants to learn more about Python.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Python. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And until next time, happy coding, everyone.